Hello, everybody, and welcome to Parker's Pitstop. I am Tom Parker, and today I have someone who is a quite of a journeyman in the sim racing world. He is a manager, and he is Xavier De Carvalho. Welcome, Xavier.
Hi, Tom. Hello to everyone out there as well. Thanks for having me on the show today.
That's no problem. So, if you'd just like to give yourself a bit of a background, so obviously it's a name, like I said, you're a bit of a journeyman, so a lot of people will know you, but what do you do?
Well, there's quite a lot that I do at the moment. Of course, with MadCape Racing Team. That's the team that we started about 5 years ago. I think we just passed the 5-year mark now in December, and yeah, we're quite proud that we made it this far. So from my perspective, I started sim racing quite early on. Obviously, as anyone else does as a kid, but normally. Normally everyone starts off as a kid. That's pretty much where I started. Started with some of the Formula One games when I was younger, back on PS1 days, etc. Getting to what's sort of regarded now as a more professional sort of sim racing. We started this pretty much 5 years ago, back in 2012 when we started the team. I just come out of a Formula One league that was hosted on Race Department. Another guy by the name of João Marquez also wanted to race in the Race Department Mini Challenge, and so together we formed the team for that Nürburgring Nordschleife race. We didn't do particularly well. I think I was the only one of the two of us who finished that race. And then after that, João subsequently had to leave, so we had Kevin McDonald come on, and from then on, I mean, the team just kind of grew and grew. We got guys like Jimmy Hughes, Haniel Subti, Miroslav Davidovic was in for a while, who you guys might know from VEC. Then, of course, now in more recent times, on the iRacing side, we had Michel de Jonge, Chad Simpson. We have about 53 members, so to sit here and name them all would be or take up a lot of time. Again, more recently as well, from a Formula Sim Racing perspective, we've been racing in that series for about 3 years now, up in the World Championship. This is our first full year in Ace and Pro. We've got Jim Parisas, George Monosakis in the primary VB MadCape team there. Of course, we have a partnership in Formula Sim Racing with the VB Motorsports group. And so Vodbull are also under our wing there in Formula Sim Racing. In the World Championship with Lars Brookman, who raced with us again in GPVWC Formula Challenge. So we've got that connection there. We've got Risto Caput in that seat as well. Another guy who used to race over at GPVWC, perhaps didn't have the best exit necessarily, but in more recent times he's been doing okay, is Harley Hamnet. He's racing for us in Pro. We've got Jean-Pierre Pop. We've got Stoyan Barbukov as well, who's racing with us in Ace. So, and then again, yes, in GPVWC, after having won last year's Formula Challenge, both teams and drivers' championships with James Johnson and Michel de Jonge, we've now been asked to step up into the Super League. So we've been able to undercut the Super Cup completely and go straight to the top tier. So that was quite nice. A bit of a learning curve for us as well. It's a different animal, different beast to what we used to before. I mean, we've raced and won a championship in pretty much every single year we've been around so far, and we've never met something quite like the GPVWC Super League. We've got Lee Morris in the team there, and Michel de Jonge as well, with James Johnson then as the test driver. So I mean, as I'm sure you and everyone else who's listening now can tell, we've been around the block. There's a lot of stuff going on, and it's been a wild ride up until now, but it's definitely not slowing down as well. So still a lot of stuff still on the cards and things to get up to, a lot of milestones to still reach and get through.
Well, yes, like I said, there's quite an extensive background there, but obviously 5 years ago, the main MadCape team started. That's a pretty good milestone to make 5 years. I know a lot of teams have been around for longer, but I mean, you've done pretty well for yourself. I think you'd like to admit. I mean, like you said, Formula Challenge last year in GPWC, bypassing Super Cup completely into Super League, which is actually quite an achievement. Not many teams have done that in the past. You said yourself as quite a different beast. What aspects of that are challenging for you as a manager? Because obviously there's the upgrade system and there's finances and all that. Have you ever had to deal with that in the past in like other leagues such as FSR or well, at least WEC. I know that you said it was a different challenge. So, what aspects of that are you struggling with or finding difficult in your first year?
It's funny that you mentioned finances. We've never had to deal with virtual currencies. We've always had to be pumping in our own sort of salaries into sim racing. More recently, we've had the help of some sponsors. Stormcharge have helped a lot with the funding in Formula Sim Racing. Thrustmaster have helped us a lot on the equipment side of things over the past 2 years. We're very grateful for those partnerships. I don't think we would have been able to compete at such a competitive level, say in Formula Sim Racing or in iRacing, without those partnerships. And now in GPVWC as well, it's a bit of an added incentive as well to have these sort of goals and targets, given to us by the sponsors. So again, yeah, like it's funny that you mention having to deal with budgets and having to deal with like sponsors and all of this stuff in GPVWC. It's a different animal from the perspective that, yeah, all of this stuff is virtual, and everyone pretty much has the opportunity to get the same or to get better sponsors or whatnot. So it's a little bit less like the real world and a little bit more of simulated. Which I think is a little bit more true to the essence of sim racing, to be honest. I don't think probably shouldn't be saying this, but I don't think having sponsors is necessarily the best thing for us right now, since not a lot of teams necessarily know how to go out there and secure the type of funding and all that stuff that we've been able to, or that we've been fortunate enough to do. So yeah, there's not necessarily a level playing field outside of GPVWC. Also, it's a different animal in terms of having to develop a car. We've never had to do that. Of course, we've always given input for different mods. For instance, in Formula Sim Racing, we give input on those mods. Back in the past, in race department days, we used to give input on the Virtual World Series by Renault mods, on the RDLMS mods, Virtual World Endurance Championship mods at RD. So yeah, we don't have experience building a car like you do in GPVWC, but we have experience giving inputs. We're also fighting a different beast in terms of having to actually watch this virtual currency now. So have we hired, A, enough staff to complete the job, and B, have we kept within our budgets with those staff, so that we still have enough money to, develop the car or pay driver salaries, etc. So it's different in that it's more simulated, sort of real world scenarios, but it's a little bit different to what we're used to, having actually gone through some of these real world scenarios as well. So yeah, completely different beast from those perspectives.
Yeah, and obviously that's one of the challenges of GPWC. I think it is very unique in that sense. You have to update the car yourself and then manage the finances. But it's a learning curve, like you said, and I'm sure you will find experience maybe next year, possibly go for a title challenge. I know Adonis in Super League, they challenged for the title last year after having a 1 year experience. So you never know. And obviously with Lee Morris there, he's quite a strong driver. And obviously Michel de Jong obviously will find his way through the ranks as well. So fingers crossed for you for next year or maybe even this year, who knows. You mentioned a partnership with Vodbull in FSR. What do you get out of that? How do Vodbull help you, or vice versa? How do you help them? And how is that partnership going?
So I wouldn't necessarily, maybe partnership was the wrong word. It's one team, right, in Formula Sim Racing. So it's not like MadCape is partnered with VBM, or it's just one entity. We're all under the same umbrella. We all work together. We all have sort of the same goals, the same ambitions. We all practice together on the same in the same places at the same times. We all share each other's data, etc., and we all make sure that everyone is having a good time within the team. Since, like I say, it's one entity. It's not necessarily as though we're rivals on track or like we're two separated sort of, teams. Yeah, we're not two separated teams. We're the same. If we didn't have to name ourselves two different things, we would name ourselves the same thing. Would both be VB MadCape still, like we were last year. So obviously what Vodbull and VBM have brought to the table are the Stormcharge partnership from their end. That's actually helped us quite a bit in helping fund the endeavors over the past 2 years. So a massive thank you to them at Stormcharge for all of their support. A big thank you to Mike Pittman as well for securing that stuff. It really wasn't easy for him to go out and do that. It's not easy for anyone, but particularly this time around. And then also, what we bring from our side is the Thrustmaster partnership from a sponsor's perspective, and then of course the experience of 3 years prior in the Formula Sim Racing World Championship. Vodbull again have brought over Risto Caput, who again is a great asset. We've got Jim Paresis and George Monosakis, and Lars Brookman as well. You know, I've never over the past 5 years seen anyone work or a team work necessarily as hard as these guys do to push out the results. So I mean, when you ask, you know, what does Vodbull bring? What does MadCape bring? I think we all bring the same thing. I think we all understand we're under the same umbrella, we're under the same banner, we've all got the same goals and the same ambitions, etc. So yeah, there's no separation really.
I mean, that's brilliant. I can hark, obviously, being Vodbull's test driver at GPWC, I can definitely hark to the hard-working part. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, if you say, like, the team are working well together, that's the main thing, helping each other reach your goals, as you say. Do you have any goals for FSR this year? Are you aiming for a championship run, or are you aiming just to see how it goes? So, I mean, obviously, FSR is an upper echelon of rfactor 2 sim racing, in my opinion. Obviously, people have different opinions of their own. Have you got a main aim for, like, a championship run, or are you just seeing how it goes, like I said?
We've got 4 names for a championship run, to be fair. All 4 of our drivers are more than capable to take that title. All 4 of them are working just as hard to get up there. They're all motivated. I think we have 4 incredibly talented drivers this year in FSR. So yeah, there's no favoritism. Everyone has a shot. There's no sort of primary driver, there's no secondary, there's no tertiary or beyond. Again, everyone understands we're under the same banner, got the same goals, there's no separation, etc. Of course, we want to win the title as a team. We were getting close last year, but I think we fell off towards the end of the season. I think we lost as a team a bit of motivation after we went through a couple of rough patches, both in private and a little bit, it carried over a little bit into the sim racing side of things. Yeah, we've built the team so that it's a lot stronger this year. I don't see why we can't challenge for the title. We've already seen we've got the pace, and we've already seen that we've got the consistency to get up there. 1 or 2 small strategy errors are what hindered us in the first race of the season. But yeah, all in all, I think we're looking very good for the rest of the season. I'm quite confident in the abilities of my drivers. I'm quite confident in the ability of the guys working in the background as well to make things happen. Yeah, and I think this is definitely going to be the best season we've ever had in the World Championship, with or without the win, you know.
Absolutely, so we can only wish you luck. I mean, like you said, the first round went particularly well. I know Lars Brookman came second, I think from 17th on the grid. So, I mean, like you said, it's a couple of strategy errors, but that's something, like you said, about a learning curve, similar to GBWC. You learn from those mistakes, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, from the next round you'll be even further up the grid and hopefully taking those wins. So we can only wish you good luck. You mentioned iRacing earlier. What sort of things are you doing over there? Are you involved in any of the pro leagues? Are you planning to get into those pro leagues? If not, what are your plans and ambitions for iRacing this year?
All right, so over the last couple of years, we've been experimenting here and there on iRacing. We've got Ryan Walker in the Skip Barber series. He's been doing the UK&I series as well. He's been doing exceptionally well there. Got himself a couple of top 5s on a few occasions. We've also got the guys doing the IndyCar series. So Chad Simpson and Michel de Jong are our primary drivers from that aspect. They've won the ICWC World... sorry, they're not necessarily a world championship, but I guess we could call it that. The ICWC championships, hosted by RaceBot. So Chad won, I think, the oval side, or Michelle might have won both. But in any case, we won both the oval and the road drivers championships. And adding the 2 drivers' results together, we could say if there was a team's championship, we would be the leaders and the winners of that as well. We've been doing the 16th Street IndyCar series as well on iRacing, which means we've been going up against guys like Sage Karam, Will Power. I mean, I myself was in that team at that point, and going wheel to wheel with some real life IndyCar drivers is always a really fun thing to do. We've had Jordan Pepper, who is an ADAC GT Master driver. race with us in an endurance series called the Gathering Tweakers Endurance Series, which is pretty much the support endurance series to the Neo Endurance Series. So, along with myself, Nick Rowland, Michel de Jonge, and sorry, um, yeah, so myself, Michel de Jonge, and Nick Rowland have been racing in the Neo Endurance Series since last year. Poor choice of car last year led to a string of bad results. This year we've gone for the HPD, and we've brought in an HPD nutter, pretty much, in Robert Tinsey. He's been helping us sort out the car, and he's been a great asset over the past 2 rounds since he's joined. So we're looking to try and finish within the top 10 of the Neo Endurance Series, which for a new team and a new class is something to, well, it's not anything to sneeze at, to be fair. With regards to the Pro Series, we've tried in the past. The oval side of things, I think, got a bit toxic, and so we ended that. I don't think we will necessarily ever go back to oval side of things. Again, like I say, that community is a little bit toxic. I've never really seen something like that in sim racing before. It was something to behold. From the road side of things, we were experimenting a little bit with Jack Keithley to try and go for pro. Michel de Jonge was in there. Robert Nash was in there as well. That unfortunately fell through. The same thing on the endurance side of things. So yeah, we have ambitions to, of course, get involved at some point. It's just finding drivers who are able to commit to a full season. Unlike FSR, unlike GPVWC, it needs to be sort of a full-time job, not just for the people on track, but for those who are working in the background as well. So until we can find a big team, reach that critical mass of drivers who are able to commit to a full season and who are fast enough to make it, then yeah, I don't think we're necessarily going to be chasing anything right now. We're going to be sticking to IndyCar, sticking probably to the Neo and the GOT Endurance Series, and I think that's where we'll be living for a while.
Well, I mean, at least you have the ambition to maybe one day get onto the road side. I know, obviously, you said the oval side was a bit toxic, which is unfortunate, but unfortunately, these things do happen in sim racing. Obviously, especially when there's money involved. I mean, it gets a bit competitive, over-competitive sometimes, as you may have alluded to. But, I mean, the ambition's there, and hopefully, fingers crossed, you'll be there in a couple of years' time. But good luck, obviously, with the Neo Endurance. Top 10, like you said, isn't anything to sneeze at. It's quite an achievement in some of those racing teams in that series. So, fingers crossed for you. We'll have one more question then. Are you planning on doing any driving yourself, or do you plan on taking a back seat, doing the managing? Is that what you prefer, or do you want to maybe one day get back into the racing side of it yourself?
Well, of course, every racing driver wants to be in the car, right? To be fair, I kind of missed the virtual mini challenge days of Touring Pro Series. I think that was probably some of the most fun I've ever had. If Touring Pro Series or another series on the same level could ever come up again, I would be there in a heartbeat. I do a little bit of racing myself on iRacing. I've raced in GPVWC a while ago for Measure Racing in the Formula Challenge. I think this was back on the rfactor 1 days. I've run into, obviously a new job, etc., and it's taking up a lot of time. So I don't get much time to put into practice for a lot of the races, which is why I lean more towards iRacing sometimes. It's just easier to sort of get into a race and be competitive immediately. Whereas, having to race in GPVWC or Formula Sim Racing, it takes hours and hours, not just before the race, I mean like hours per day before you even get anywhere near the levels of a Jim Parisas, a George Monosakis, or a Risto Caput or a Lars Brogman, for instance. So yeah, until I think I sort of get my time back, I think I'm going to be taking a back seat, sitting more in a managerial role, making sure things are running smoothly, keeping everyone in the team as happy as I can, and yeah, I think that's more or less where I'm going to be sitting for the next year at least.
Well, obviously, I mean, time is something that you can't just find, unfortunately. I mean, I'm in the same position at the moment, obviously moving house and all that. So, yeah, finding time is difficult, but hopefully, fingers crossed, you'll be back next year if it all goes well. And obviously, the last thing to say is good luck for your year. I mean, MadCape are going to be in quite a few things, so fingers crossed for your Neo, fingers crossed for the GVWC FSR. I know you'll be looking forward to see how that pans out. Yeah, so thank you very much for coming along, Xavier.
Yeah, thank you very much again for having me, and to everyone out there, thanks for listening as well. I've been listening to this series since it started, and it's always entertaining. So yeah, glad to have been on.
Brilliant, thank you very much. So yes, that was Xavier De Carvalho from MadCape Racing. This will be going out on Monday, so looking forward to seeing the views. And any comments, obviously put them in the YouTube video below. My name's been Tom Parker, and this has been Parker's Pit Stop. Thank you very much for listening. See you later.